Good morning, everybody. All right, if you would go into Canvas and find the thing that says milestone review questions, that's what we're going to do today. I'll wait for everybody to get in before we get started. The first one is a diagram, and we're just going to talk about that one, but then we're going to skip to the ecosystem one. So when you pull up this page, open the diagram review first. There's no questions on that. I just want to discuss those pictures with you. And then we're going to do the ecosystems. Thank you for letting me know, because I do try to wait on folks. I do appreciate you all being on time so we can get started, because we need to get a lot done so that we can have as much practice time for the milestones as possible. Let this one in, and then I'll go ahead and get started. We are still missing one or two people, but they're late. Okay, and the lesson is also being recorded. But thank you. All right, so again, click on the milestone activity on your desktop, and you'll see this. And then I want you to open the ecology diagram first. I want to go over those. And this is a collection of different pictures. So this is not one topic. These are just graphics that may benefit you as a study tool. So today was all about study tools. All right, so the first one we've talked about, this is our taxonomy unit of classification of living things according to taxonomy. And again, we use the upside down triangle because the broad part covers the most organisms. So it covers everything. And there are 5 different kingdoms. Okay, then you can take each kingdom after that and break each kingdom down to phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And so each of these categories is wide because it will cover a lot of organisms until you get down to genus and species. By then, you've kind of specialized who you're talking about. You need to remember that when you name an organism, we call it a binomial nomenclature, is the term used for the 2-word system of naming. So genus and species is the name that you are going to end up giving the actual organism. Okay, everything up here, but in family still includes a lot of, is kind of more specialized, but order still includes a lot of organisms. Class also includes more. So as you go up, it broadens, it includes a lot of things. So an example of that would be this concept map. Okay, we're looking at living things. This one only gives you two of the five kingdoms. We're looking at plants and animals as our kingdoms, but then you can break those down into phylum. You have invertebrates in the animal kingdom. Okay, so this is one kingdom. The animal kingdom is, you can break that down into invertebrates and vertebrates. And as you see, our invertebrates are those that they may have a skeleton or something, but it's an exoskeleton. It's something hard on the outside. So that makes them different from vertebrates, which have an internal skeleton. So this is what we look at when we're, again, with our dichotomous key. If we were trying to separate the animals in our picture, we would say, do they have an outside skeleton or no skeleton, or do they have an internal skeleton? And then we can look at our examples there. And here again with the fish, these would be phyla. And then there are different types of fish. So we would break those down further into class, order, family, genus, and species. You have your amphibians. So again, these are different phyla of vertebrates. Your amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. We fall under the mammal one, but notice mammals still includes rabbits and rats and cows and elephants and all that sort of thing. So we still have a ways to go as far as getting from phylum to class, order, family, genus, and species. Again, our name is Homo sapien, okay? And so that would be our genus and species name. The other rule with genus and species is that the genus name is always capitalized and the species name is lowercase. I have seen tests where they give you the same word names in each answer as in a multiple choice, but one of them might not be capitalized. They might capitalize the wrong word. So that's a rule. The genus is capitalized, species is not. All right, then we look at our plant kingdom, and we have two different types of phyla under plant kingdom. There are flowering plants and non-flowering plants. And what they've done with this, because they've now broken down fungi and algae into a different, their own phylum, but so they've kind of stuck them under non-flowering plants, but they are indeed non-flowering plants. And so then you have your monocots, which means that they only have one seed. They give you examples of those, and dicots. So if you open the seed, it actually splits in two. So use those prefixes to help you understand what those words mean. And again, vocabulary. The best way, I can't give you sample questions. I can only tell you what the topics are for this test. Vocabulary is the best way. If you go through your vocabulary list and you say, I've seen that word before, I understand what it means, and then you can relate it to what the question is asking you. Okay, they might show you a picture of of two seeds, and you'll say, but I don't know what that is. Mono means one, di means two. So the cotyledon is just a seed. So just use your understanding of the vocabulary in order to deal with that. All right, let me show you the bottom picture before we talk about the top one. The levels of organization. If we start from the very, very beginning of life for living things, the smallest unit is a cell, and cells make tissues, and a group of tissues make an organ, and a group of organs work together to make organ systems, and organ systems will make a whole organism. Okay, and then from there with ecology, we start with an organism and we say a group, and that would be one kind of thing. Okay, could be a frog. It would be an organism, and then a population would be more than one of the frog. Okay, so we have lots of frogs in our population. We're not talking about the cats and the elephants and all the other living things. We're just talking about that. Population is one kind, but it's more than one. Okay, in a community, now we can look at how many populations we have living in the same area. So now in our community, we can look at the cats and the dogs and the elephants that are also in the same space with our frog. And up to that point, we're only looking at the living things. Now, when we get to ecosystem, ecosystem also includes non-living factors that living things need. So it includes the air, the water, the sunlight, the soil, all of those things that are not living, but we need it to live. Okay, the water. And then so there are different types of ecosystems, and they make up larger areas called biomes. Okay. Um, and then the whole Earth is the biosphere. So there's different, we're going to talk about biomes in a minute, but if we look at the whole Earth being the biosphere, there's different kinds of places in the biosphere. We have those that are in the water, that's our hydrosphere. Those that are on land, that's our lithosphere. Those that live in the air, atmosphere. And there are areas on the planet that are frozen, and that's our cryosphere. Oh, Natalie has made it. I'll wait for her to get in and uh, all right. Hi, Natalie. We are going over a review sheet. Let me come out and show you what we're doing. All right. We are in looking at the milestone review questions, and we are discussing the diagram page. And we are kind of halfway through that. All right, so those are the different types of spheres within our biosphere, and the biosphere is the whole Earth. Okay, now going back to our levels of organization, this is just a visual kind of like what I said with the frog. So we start with an organism and we're looking at one kind of thing. So here they have a fish. Okay, and then we have a group of fish, and that's a population, but it's still just talking about the fish. There are other things that live in the water, but right now, if we're talking about population, we're only talking about one kind of organism. Now, community, the fish. So notice now the fish down here in the bottom of the picture, but now the fish doesn't live by itself. It lives in community with other organisms. So there's our frog, the duck, the turtle, and the rabbit. They all live in the same area. So that's the community. Again, we're still looking at the living things up to this point. When we get to ecosystem, notice the picture got bigger. It still includes the duck, the fish, the turtle, and the rabbit, and all those things. But now it also kind of, I want to point out too, grass, plants are living things. So they are in your community. So if we are looking at, we have two terms that we need to know, biotic factors. Those are living things. So that would be our plants and animals. And then our abiotic factors. So this is where ecosystem includes our abiotic. It includes the water, the sunlight that you see up here in the corner. It includes the air, the temperature, the air is important. The soil that grows the plants is important. So those things are part of your ecosystem. And then when we define ecosystems, we define them according to what is the temperature of the air, how much water do we have? So we're going to look at that in a minute. But note again, community, the organism population and community doesn't think about abiotic factors. We're just looking at the living things in a given area. There are several ecosystems on the planet. So this is our biosphere, includes all of the ecosystems. All right, so you have this picture and you have a similar picture in your canvas of this map. And a lot of times they give you the map and they want you to understand the map. The map is divided into areas that, according to climate, and so you notice that things that are close to the equator have similar colors, and those that are higher up have similar colors, like the green areas are way up at the top. Those are our taiga. So there's names for all of these colors, and they usually give you a color-coded map. And with the understanding that it describes not only the temperature, but it also describes how much water does that area get. Okay. Another way to look at that would be this biome pyramid. Okay, the biome pyramid has a list of all of the ecosystems that you see up here in the map, except they've put it in such a way to relate the temperature. So again, it's defined by temperature, that's our hot to cold, and how much water it gets, that's our wet to dry. So that's what this pyramid is showing you. So you can look at this pyramid and they say, if the question asks you, um, roughly describe the temperature of a rainforest. So our rainforest is down here in the corner. So according to our arrows, our rainforest is very hot because it's on the hot end of the arrow, and it's very wet because it's on the wet end of the arrow, as opposed to our Sahara, which is hot and dry. And you get that information just by looking at where that word is um, in relation to those arrows. Let's move up a little bit where we live. We live in a deciduous forest. So find the word deciduous forest. So that's kind of in the middle of the arrow as far as temperature is concerned. Okay, so we're in a temperate zone. We're not cold, cold, but we're not hot, hot either. And we're still on the end of the arrow that gets a lot of water, but we're not as wet as a rainforest. So that's how you would describe that, as opposed to, say, the grassland. The grassland on that part is more dry. So it has more of a dry temperature, but it still is warm. It's still in the temperate temperature range. All right, then we get subpolar. Subpolar means it's cold, but it's not too cold. You can still live there. All right, but again, look at where it is on the arrow. Our coniferous forests, our Christmas trees, sometimes also called the boreal forest. They're on the colder end of the spectrum, and they're kind of in the middle of this hot and dry arrow at the bottom. So that's how you would look at that. Tundra is the frozen areas. So they're very cold. And also because it's ice, there's a certain degree of wetness, but we call these frozen deserts because things tend to not live up there in tundra polar regions. All right, so you might see this pyramid, and that's how you would read this pyramid, depending on where it is, on what level of the pyramid it is. Look at two characteristics for biomes. What is the temperature, and what is the amount of rainfall does it get? Okay. All right. So this particular worksheet is just there as a study guide, something for you to look at. What I want to look at next is this one that says ecosystem. This is actually a quiz, but we are going to go through the answers. I'm giving you the answers. You don't have to send the picture one back to me, but I do want you to show me that you were paying attention and send these quizzes worksheets back to me with the correct answer. And you were paying attention because I'm giving you the answers. All right, so our first one, it says an ecosystem is made up of, and the answer to this is living and non-living things. So that was what we just discussed in that picture. By definition, an ecosystem consists of all the living things, and those are our biotic factors, and all the non-living things. Those are our abiotic factors. And non-living things means the soil, the sun, the water, the air, the sunlight. All of those are necessary. Plants can't grow without sunlight. They can't grow without water. We can't survive without water, but those are not living things. Okay, so that's what an ecosystem has. All right, question 2. Communities are made up of living things only, and underline that, highlight or do whatever you need to do to stress only. In other words, we're not, by definition, it does not include the water, the sun, the earth, that kind of stuff. All right, so which one of these is a community? So take a minute to look those over. Which one of these does not include something that is non-living? Somebody give me an answer to that instead of me telling you. Which one of those sets has everything in it is just living? All right, it's not A, it is D. It is D. All right, because A has dirt. Dirt is non-living. D, everything in there is the deer, the grass, because grass is a living thing. So don't forget that, folks. Plants are living things. And that's where people get these questions wrong, is they forget that the plants are living things and exclude them. All right, but the grass and the leaves are part of the tree, so they are living things, and the bunny. So D is the correct answer on that one. All right, populations. Again, we're going through those definitions. Contain more than one member of the species, but it's of a group of one kind. So which one of these is a population? One kind of something, but it's a group of them. I see this is where they trick you. The they have squirrel in three of these answers, but they gave you a picture of a fox. But which one of these answers is correct for a population? We're talking about one organism, but we're talking about a lot of them. Somebody answer. Nope, because all of those are different. Okay. The it's A. Thank you, Kashan. It's A. It's 10 squirrels because we're still talking about one. A population by definition is one more than one of the same species. So pay attention to that part right there. So they tell you what it is. So we have the squirrels, and again, squirrels are mentioned in B and C, but they're also a squirrel by itself is not a population. It's an organism. 10 squirrels is a population. Okay, a squirrel, a deer, and a mouse is a community because they're different only if they live in the same space. Okay. All right. So that's 10 squirrels was the answer for that one. Um, and again, they give you a picture of foxes and then they ask that there's not a fox in the question. So that's kind of misleading, but pay attention to the question. All right. What is another popular a word for a population? Okay. And you can go back up here. Yes, B is the correct answer. Go back up to the other question. They mentioned members of the same species. So species is going to be your correct answer here as well. So B is correct for that one. All right. What does the word organism mean? Sometimes you get crazy answers. It's not organ player. And organs in your body. So go through each question and just take it apart. Organs in your body are a group of cells. So again, like that worksheet that I gave you. Yes, thank you. A is the correct answer. An organism is a living thing. It is a whole living thing. Organs in your body are part of an organism. They are not a whole organism. Okay? And non-living things definitely are not an organism. All right. Another word for animals, home, and I will tell you this one, it is the habitat. Okay. You might confuse it with the niche. Niche is what the organism does in its home. Okay. So the job that it performs where it lives is a niche. But the answer to this question is a habitat. All right. Number 7. And that's what the answer I just gave you. This one is niche. So what it does, its role in society is its niche, its job. Okay. Number 8. Any characteristic that helps an organism survive in its ecosystem. What do you think will help an organism survive? And this one, just again, knowing vocabulary, you can eliminate all of these things. Thank you. C, adaptation. It is adapted to its environment, and because it can adapt, it will survive. All right, an adaptation that a walrus has. B, it has long tusks that can pull itself up on the ice because they live in the water. They live in polar regions. So those tusks are helpful to get them where they want to go. They might get in the way of eating, but it helps them get get up out of the water. All right, number 10 on adaptation for the desert tortoise. They only give you two choices on this one. All right, and that would be B. It has short, stubby legs and with claws to walk across the sand, so that they get a good grip. In other words, um, long legs might make it a little awkward for them. So B is the answer to that one. The next one also only has two choices. Which of these would enable it to survive in a hot grassland? And I'm gonna tell you this one. The jackrabbit has long ears, and the advantage to that is they are able to let heat out. If they live in the desert, if and it's hot, I mean, it's not desert, grasslands, but it's hot, they can let some of the heat out of their body by having these long ears. So A is the answer to this question. All right, the B one, it says snowshoe rabbits have short ears, but the snowshoe rabbit lives in cold regions. So that would not be the answer because the question asked you about hot grasslands. So again, that would be another way to sort out that answer. Just kind of look at what they're telling you. This is a snowshoe rabbit. They live in the snow. They don't live in hot grasslands. All right, next one. What four things does an organism need to survive? You tell me this one. Look at all four choices. Which one do they has everything they need? Must have, must have. All right, A, they need food. Thank you. Thank you. They need food, water, shelter, and space. They need space. They need somewhere to live, and they need to be protected in that space. They need water and food. They don't necessarily need friends. Friends are nice. They don't want predators or prey. And they don't need humans. We they need food, water, and space. So this is one of those questions that you can almost eliminate it because they got some silly answers inside. All right, 13. What is the long-lasting relationship between different organisms called? Now, I'm going to go through and give you a list because there are four different types of relationships. So all of those that are listed there are types of relationships, and they are either helpful to each other or harmful to each other. So this one, the answer is symbiosis. That means how do you get along with other organisms is just a symbiotic relationship. But there is a description. There are different kinds of symbiotic relationships. So we're going to go through each of those. So the next picture, and notice each of these has the same choices. So you just have to know which is which. So this symbiosis is a general description of relationships between two organisms. Notice two. Okay. All right. Next one, the type of symbiosis where they benefit one another. Benefit means I do something for you, you do something for me, and we're helping each other. That is mutualism. So think of that. We have a mutual relationship. I do something for you, you do something for me. All right, that's 14. 15. The type of symbiosis where one organism benefits and the other one is not affected. Um, this is a situation where one organism kind of hangs out on, and they're usually living on or in the other organism, but their presence there doesn't seem to bother that second one. It's not helping them, it's not harming them, and they probably just don't care that they're there. So this one is called commensalism. Commensalism, okay? Where one is benefited, but the other one could care less, okay? All right, this one, where one benefits, but the other is harmed. And again, this one is a situation where one organism lives inside or on the other organism, but their presence there is not a healthy thing. Okay. Sometimes they're just harmed, and sometimes they can they actually cause death. So parasitism is the answer for this one. So if you have pets, fleas and ticks and tapeworms and things like that, where the organism lives in or on, and they are getting something from that organism, they're getting the food, or they're sucking their blood, or doing something like, so that's the organism that benefits, but the thing that they're living in or on could be getting weaker. Okay, so they are harmed by their presence. They get sick. They could be carrying some type of disease, and they cause the host. So we have what we call the parasite, which is the thing benefiting, and the host, which is the one that is being harmed. So they actually have names, the parasite and the host. Okay. All right. They don't have the other one. The other one that's relationship is predator prey. And the predator is the one going after one organism, and the prey is the one, they're not necessarily harmed, they are usually killed in the process. So that's another relationship. Okay, they don't, one is survived and the other is benefited by them, but the other one usually does not survive, which is different than parasitism. Parasitism, the parasite doesn't always kill the host, but it makes them very, very weak. All right, a hookworm lives in the intestines. And again, it makes them sick, but doesn't necessarily kill them. So that's parasitism. All right. And then we have our elephant, a cattle of egrets. That's that little bird sitting on top of his head, is hanging out on top of the elephant and eating the insects that fly by out of the grass. The elephant, as the elephant walks by. So you tell me which one is this? The egret is sitting up there, they're eating the bugs. Which one would this be? Does the elephant care? Is the elephant benefiting from their presence? Yes, it's commensalism, because it is doing something. While the elephant is providing food and a place for the egret to hang out and get the food, and the egret is also picking these pesky little bugs off of the elephant. So it is kind of um, it's kind of mutual, but it's more commensalism, because the elephant really doesn't care that they're up there. The elephant is not going to be really bothered by their presence, other than them providing a spot where the bugs are. The elephant really is not, um, and those bugs are just pesky. The elephants don't eat the bugs, so it's not really something that they want. So they allow the egret to go pick the bugs off of. All right, so that's commensalism. All right, so that's one worksheet down. What time is it? We, we can start the next one and we'll finish it when I see you next class. All right, so all right, so I did that one because we haven't done ecology. So make sure you actually give that a good look, because that has topics that we haven't done, but those are kind of the important ones. So learn those vocabulary about symbiosis and relationships, learn about the different types of ecosystems. So make sure you read up on that. The levels of organization within the biosphere. Those are important ecology topics. All right, so let's go back and look at the ones that we've already done. So this one should be more review than anything. There's no pretty pictures on this one. All right, so But again, I will help you with the answers on this, so do pay attention. And again, what you should be submitting to me is a worksheet with answers on it showing that you did pay attention while we were going over this. Okay. Fine. All right. How how do the nucleus and ribosome interact to maintain cellular homeostasis? All right, that word, and then these are yours too. You can make notes on these and whatever you need to do. You don't necessarily have to send me the one with all your notes on it, but that word homeostasis, what does that mean? Because you can't answer this until you know what homeostasis means. So what does homeostasis mean? Anybody type in the chat. What is homeostasis? Cellular homeostasis. You can say this with one word. What would be the one word that would describe homeostasis? Anybody? Stable is a good word. I like that. Stability. So that's stability. But the word I was looking for is balance. Thank you, Natalie. Balance, balance. That's the word I was looking for, balance. So we want to make sure we get stability by making sure that everything in the cell is balanced. We have our pluses and minuses, and we have a balance. All right, so which one of these answers will help us with balance? What is the relationship between our nucleus and our ribosomes? They work together to do what? A, yes, the nucleus contains the DNA and codes for proteins, which are synthesized in the ribosome. So again, you need to go back and look at your jobs for all the parts of the cell. And folks, if you're not studying, you're doing yourself a disservice because there's a lot of stuff we covered. The cell by itself has like 15 organelles, and you need to know the jobs of the organelles. So go back and make sure you look at that. And you have a worksheet for that you did with the list, all the um, functions of all the organelles. So we need to know what the nucleus does. The nucleus is in the center of the cell. It's like the brains of the cell. It tells the cell what to do. And it does that by sending information, our DNA, and the information that the DNA sends goes to the ribosomes, and the ribosomes make the protein that make all the other parts of the cell and the body. Okay, so that's number one. All right, number two. Which macromolecule is primarily responsible for storing genetic information? And again, macromolecule, you need to make sure that you understand what that vocabulary word is. That means molecules that are not microscopic. And we had a table of all our macromolecules. So which one stores genetic material? All right. Here we're looking at the name of the molecule and not the structure. So we are looking at it being nucleic acids. Thank you. A, nucleic acids. Nucleic acids. All right, so those are the things that make up the DNA. All right, what is the primary role of the chloroplast in plants? Now that's an organelle. It's only found in plants. What does it do? Yes, B, it conducts photosynthesis. And again, you need to know what photosynthesis is. That's a chemical equation. And you need to, and we're running out of time, so I just want to say real quick, and we're going to finish this, but I want to say you need to know the relationship between photosynthesis and respiration. It is one equation backwards. Okay, so make sure that, and I'll pull that up tomorrow too, and we'll look at what that equation is, what all the parts are, what everything, where everything comes from, and um, how photosynthesis, one that you just have to learn the one equation, but know that which way is forward and which one is backward, because they ask that too. They can give you a picture of the equation and ask you, is this photosynthesis or respiration? And it will depend on what is the product and what is the reactant. Okay, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, let's do one more. All right, how do carbohydrates contribute to cellular processes? What is the function of a carbohydrate? What do carbohydrates do for you? I think, Piper, you are giving me an answer. They serve as the primary source of energy. All right, so that's why football players and athletes, when they have a big meal before they call it carbo load, because they want you to have energy to play the game. So that is its function. Okay, it gives you energy. All right, so we're going to stop right there. That doesn't mean that you can't finish looking at this, but we're going to stop right there, and I'll finish giving you the answers. And I plan to discuss each answer as we go along. Okay. All righty. You all have a great day. Um, and see you Friday. All right, let me quick because I didn't do attendance. Stop sharing. All right, you all have a great day. It's a nice sunny day. Have a good lunch.